Tonight, we travel to the wild mountains of Crete, where ancient magic still hums through limestone caves, and the very stones remember the first songs of creation. Deep within Mount Ida, some say, though others whisper of different sacred peaks, there lies a cavern so hidden that even the wind loses its way before finding the entrance. This is where Zeus spent his earliest days, cradled not in a golden palace, but in the arms of mountain nymphs, who fed him honey that dripped from sacred combs and milk from a remarkable goat named Amalthea. The goat Amalthea deserves her own tale, for she was no ordinary creature. Her milk possessed properties that made gods grow strong, and she gave it willingly, as if she understood the cosmic importance of the child she nourished. Some say her horn later became the famous cornucopia, the horn of plenty, but that's a story for another night. What matters now is that she helped keep Zeus alive and thriving in those crucial early days. As seasons turned in that hidden sanctuary, something extraordinary began to unfold. Zeus grew not just in size, but in power, at a rate that defied even divine logic. By his first year, he could already walk with the confident stride of a young prince. By his second, he could speak with a voice that carried undertones of authority that made even the ancient nymphs pause and listen. The fuse had been lit the moment Rhea wrapped that stone, dear ones, and now it was burning brighter each day. The boy would stand at the mouth of the cave, sometimes gazing out at the world beyond with eyes that sparked with contained lightning. You could see it, building in him that terrible knowledge of his destiny. The nymphs would find him practicing with sticks as if they were scepters, commanding the wind and rain in games that weren't quite games anymore. Storm clouds would gather when his emotions ran high, dissipating only when the Cretes distracted him with their warrior dances. But Zeus was not growing up alone in that cave, for Rhea came to visit whenever she could slip away from Kronos without arousing suspicion. These visits were the most dangerous moments of all, for if Kronos had discovered her absences, if he had followed her even once, all would have been lost. But mothers find ways, don't they? Even Titan mothers, driven by desperate love. During these secret visits, Rhea would hold her youngest son and tell him stories that no child should have to hear. She spoke of his brothers and sisters, trapped forever in their father's stomach, conscious and waiting in that terrible darkness. She painted pictures with words of Hestia, the gentle firstborn who had dreamed of tending eternal flames, of Demeter, who had wanted nothing more than to make things grow, of Hera, proud and fierce even as a baby, of Hades, quiet and thoughtful, and Poseidon, who had loved the sound of rushing water from his very first day. These weren't bedtime stories, my dear listeners. They were battle plans wrapped in motherly love. Rhea was carefully, deliberately shaping her son's understanding of justice. This wouldn't be mere revenge when the time came. She made sure of that. This would be rescue, liberation, the righting of cosmic wrongs. Zeus would grow up not just knowing he was destined to overthrow his father, but understanding why that overthrow was necessary. Can you imagine the weight of such knowledge on a child's shoulders, even a divine child? Zeus would lie awake some nights, staring at the cave ceiling, feeling the responsibility settling around him like a cloak made of storm clouds. The nymphs would find him sometimes, quietly weeping for siblings he'd never met, but already loved, already felt bound to save. Meanwhile, far away in his gleaming palace, Kronos ruled with increasing confidence. The stone in his stomach had settled, becoming just another uncomfortable truth he'd learned to ignore. He convinced himself that his reign was now secure, that the prophecy had been nothing but empty words after all. He grew complacent in his power, holding court and making grand pronouncements while that hidden fuse continued to burn on distant Crete. But sometimes, in the quiet moments between ruling and sleeping, Kronos would feel something strange stirring in his divine belly. The stone didn't digest the way his children's bodies had, and occasionally it would shift, sending odd pangs through his immortal form. He would dismiss these sensations, these hints that something was fundamentally wrong, because admitting doubt would mean admitting that perhaps his victory wasn't as complete as he believed. The irony was delicious, wasn't it? The very caution that had driven him to swallow his children was now working against him. He'd been so focused on eliminating threats quickly that he'd never properly examined what he was consuming. His paranoia had made him sloppy at the crucial moment. As Zeus approached his third year, the signs of his growing power became impossible to ignore. Even in that hidden cave, he could summon rain with a laugh, call down lightning with a pointed finger, and his voice, when raised in excitement or anger, would echo with the rumble of distant thunder. The Cretes had to work harder than ever to mask these displays, their shield clashing growing more elaborate and frequent. But Zeus was learning control too, guided by his mother's visits and the wise nymphs who cared for him. He understood, with the gravity that comes to those born to great destinies, that his time of hiding was temporary. He was being prepared for something enormous, something that would shake the very foundations of the cosmos. The boy would practice speeches to imaginary crowds, his small voice carrying promises of justice and liberation. He would plan imaginary battles, using stones and sticks to represent the forces he would someday command. Even his play had purpose now, every game a rehearsal for the cosmic drama he would eventually star in. And through it all, fate itself seemed to lean in closer, watching and waiting. The pattern that had governed the cosmos since chaos first stirred was asserting itself once more. Son must face father, the young must overthrow the old, and power must change hands according to the ancient inevitable rhythm of the universe. The wheel of destiny was turning faster now, dear ones, gathering momentum with each passing season. Kronos' false security was becoming more brittle by the day, though he couldn't see it yet. Zeus was growing not just in power, but in wisdom, in understanding of both his burden and his purpose. Rhea continued her careful manipulations, playing a game so complex and long-term that even other titans couldn't fathom its full scope. Soon, very soon, the hidden prince would leave his mountain sanctuary. He would walk out of that cave with lightning crackling around him and thunder rolling in his wake. He would return to confront the father who had tried to devour him, armed not just with divine power, but with a plan to free his imprisoned siblings and claim his rightful place as king of the cosmos.